Welcome to What Happened on the Job. We are episode 33. This is our podcast for relevant conversations with contractors and hopefully bring a little bit of entertainment to you as well. I can never get that out cleanly. 33 episodes.
It's always different. It's just enough.
It doesn't matter what word. I just pick a word and I screw it up.
Relevant, relatable.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah, it's. Anyway, thank you for joining us today. We got Steven Dolan with us. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, we have Steven Dolan with us with WICR Waterproofing and Decking. How's it going, Steven?
We're doing fantastic today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Yeah, so give us a little bit of background on you and how you guys got started.
Yeah, so WICR has been in the waterproofing industry since late 70s when Fred Wonky, the original founder of the company, started the company. 97, we combined forces with some other people, and then at the times I wasn't involved with the company. I came in 2008. I just got back from a sabbatical of life, if you will. I moved away to Hawaii for a minute to see if I can make a new life for myself out there. And I just decided quickly that San Diego is still my best home. So I came back and I interviewed via Craig. I found a job on Craigslist as a salesperson. And my background is in sales. I've always been a very successful salesperson. Every job I've ever had, I was able to take a position and turn it into the top sales position through the company. For example, I worked at Sunglass Hut for about 3 months in Hawaii, and that doesn't sound glamorous, but out of 4,000,
I worked at Sunglass Hut as well, so it's a very glamorous.
Yeah. So I worked at the Kaanapali store there, and they give you these monthly reports. Well, my second month of ever being in sales of sunglasses, I ranked number 36 out of the entire company, out of 4,000 sales associates.
Dang, man.
And then month number three, I was at like 15th place in the company. And then it just goes on from there. My prior companies was Full Parts. I was number 2 in the nation out of 486 salespeople. So I've always had a knack for sales and just talking to people, understanding what their needs are and facilitating those needs. So when I got a job with WICR, I started off in sales. We had just the lowest end possible. I was the guy. We were doing a 1.5 million per annual revenue for the whole company, which in my mind was just not right. I mean, you got this company that can do literally tens of millions, and yet we're not doing that. So it just skyrocketed from the first month I started to when I got it in. I think by the third year we were doing like 7 or 8 million, and
Wow.
And then just after that, by year 5, we were at $10 and $12 million ranges, and we've been operating around the $12 million range since. So
cool.
It just started off as like a sales thing. They made me an owner within the first 2 years because they saw the value in having me there, and they wanted me to expand the sales departments and figure out how can we get other people to do what I do. And so they brought me in, and I started to develop our programs for all of our sales crews. Sales teams and stuff like that. And it turned out to be quite a whirlwind experience. That's for sure.
That's awesome.
So basically, my background is actually in trucks and sunglasses, car stereo sales, stuff like that. But it eventually turned into waterproofing, and that's what I've been doing for the last 12 years. Since then, I've opened up 2 other companies, both successful. One's a sheet metal company, one is a consulting company, and stuff like that. So
very cool.
Yeah.
I guess back to the beginning of the story. I know San Diego's nice, but I mean, better than Hawaii? Like what?
Island fever.
I've been trying to do that equation in my head, and I'm just not seeing where that comes out on top.
It was rad for 2 weeks, I bet, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, on that, I have no problems telling anybody this. You know what? The day that I was leaving, I don't cry much, but I probably shed a tear that day when I was leaving.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was an experience that I needed to do, but I realized that when you get on the island, if you've ever been to Hawaii, it's a very different lifestyle there altogether. Just the way that they have a thing called Hawaiian time. That's a real thing.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean,
I've got good friends that lived there for a few years, and they tell me all the stories. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a different lifestyle, and I realized that if I wanted to do what I really wanted to do with my life, I needed to come back to San Diego. And
yeah, there's no $12 million waterproofing companies on the island. Yeah.
No, there definitely is not.
Yeah.
So and that was the main thing. But I'll tell you what, man, that was some beautiful times out there.
Oh, for sure.
No, there was a period of time, it was probably about 2001, 2002, somewhere in there. I spent about 5 weeks out in Oahu, and my college roommate lived out there. And so I was like, you know what? And I went on this like little mini tour for a couple of years of where I wanted to live and kind of plant roots. And I'm from Orange County, and I still live in Orange County. So it goes to show, similar to you. But I spent about 5 weeks in Hawaii, and the first 2 weeks were awesome. I mean, I was walking, this was Oahu, so I was walking up.
What part of Hawaii were you staying on?
I was in Honolulu. So
okay, gotcha.
my buddy lived, I can't remember the name of the neighborhood, but there's those houses that kind of go up into the hills there on the edge of the city. So he'd go to work every day, and I'd drive around his 73 Chevy that was, all rusted out in the top. And man, I'm already dark skinned. I got real dark. And you started feeling a little bit more local when all the tourists started asking you how to get to places, and you were able to tell them. But I thought maybe for sure I might move out here. I got, surfing is it's like a religion out there. It's not anything like it is out here in California. And so, you go with families and kids, and, my buddies, we'd all go pretty much every day, all the time. But there was a point, I think like week 4, week 5, I remember walking up and seeing Diamond Head and thinking like, it's just not as magical anymore. And I think that's when I knew it was time for me to go.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up a job though when I was out there though.
Yeah, I was out there for a total of about 8 or 9 months in all aspects. And it was I was on the island of Maui. I was up in the Lahaina side, and it was a fun time. Definitely, I'm not a surfer. I'm a scuba diver / snorkeler. So that was my cup of tea. I spent most of my days swimming. I drove myself a 1984 Ford Ranger, similar to with all the rust and everything. I think it leaked oil. You knew where I was because it was leaking oil.
Just followed the trail all the way around you, right?
Followed the trail to Steven, and there he is. And that thing, I picked it up for $700, and I'm pretty sure I ended up leaving that in the parking lot with the keys in it. And
the donation to the island gods.
Yeah,
huh?
Exactly. That's what they do there. They can't sell it on the day of. They're leaving.
Right.
Okay, so there's literally a parking lot where you can go to in Maui, where there's just, you can probably find a truck with keys in it and just pick it up.
I remember, and I know this is a show about contracting, but I like this conversation. But I remember we would go surfing out on Diamond Head, and you would just leave we don't call them sandals, slippers. You leave your slippers, just on the beach, and and then you go out in the water. And I remember the first time I went, I brought my rainbow sandals, and when I came back, they were not there anymore.
Nope. Yep.
I learned very quickly not to do that.
Your sandals would get gone real quick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those things are valuable there. In fact, I just went to Hawaii back in December, and that exact same, it was on Oahu, and we went up to the very, very north side, like almost to the very tippy point.
Like Haleiwa up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it's past the last town and everything. Like, I forget the name of it, but it's between the very point and the town. There's a beautiful beach with like green mountains right behind and everything like that. And we were hanging out there. Bunch of homeless camps.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say very exact same thing. I left my keys on there, went in the water, not my keys, my slippers. When the water came out, they're gone.
Yep.
Then within, I think, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was but that's what happens.
Yeah.
You leave your stuff there. But
if you're an idiot, you do that. Yeah. Yeah.
I digress. Yes, I love Hawaii. So I'm glad to be back in town. Glad to be here. I've gone back to visit many times now since then. I love it there. So that's kind of my like happy place, if you will.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, San Diego's a cool town too, man. And we're still, I'm gonna kind of divert again, but my dad growing up, my dad was a fighter pilot in the Navy. He was stationed at Miramar. This was back in the 80s and the early 90s. So I spent we lived, like I said, here in Orange County, but I spent a lot of time down in San Diego, and I love that town. Very cool town.
Thank you. Yeah, we pride ourselves in the town, that's for sure.
Yeah. So back to the business, I
Back to
guess.
actually
Yeah,
working.
right. Yeah.
Back to actual work.
So they said that you said that they made you an owner after a couple of years. What did that process look like from being, a partial owner to the position you're at now? How was that? How did that journey kind of
Great question.
unfold?
So what they did was they approached me and said, we want you, we want to give you a percentage of the company. And of that means you're going to get ownership rights, make decisions, how we run our company. You're going to tell us how we can do things, change things, add things, modify everything. And they made me, and my soul at the beginning was my development was around the sales department. They wanted me to develop a full sales department because they just didn't have that going on. They've tried a variety of different things, and I'd already been kind of like pushing for ways to make that better. Like, for example, in our company, it's very difficult to do the takeoffs, the site visits, the estimating process, and the bidding, and then reviewing the bid, submitting the bid, following up on the bid, selling the bid, being the project manager for the project once it's sold. I mean, that's a lot of tasks for one person to do, and it's hard for any one person to succeed if they have to do all those things. So they want
for
to
every
break
job
down that process and figure out how we can make it to where it's a flowing process. So
a little bit more collaborative.
Exactly. So what we did was, my first initiative was to get someone to do takeoffs instead of it being reliant on the salesperson. The second thing was to get a person to do the clerical work for like the estimating and pricing schedules and stuff like that. And then the salesperson's sole responsibility at that point is to just verify the information and make the sale.
Yeah.
And it made it a lot easier. It immediately made it took time off of the salesperson's shoulders and gave them less learning things. They didn't have to learn all the different things about stuff, and they just had to focus on being a salesperson.
No, I mean, I think that's perfect too. I mean, being in sales ourselves, I mean, we can attest to the fact that I know what I'm good at, right? I know I'm good at selling. I suck at being organized in the admin stuff, right? So I'm sure you had a lot of sales guys that were the same way. So kind of taking a lot of that stuff off their plate probably helped give them a little bit more time to go hunt.
Absolutely. So when we got started and I started producing that, I then implemented all kinds of different protocols, standards, and stuff. For example, one of the questions that's going to probably come up later on is the hiring things. One of the biggest things we did was I started implementing testing. A simplistic little 5 questionnaire test that when someone sends us a resume, we are able to, first thing we do is send off a test to them and say, fill this out. If they fill it out, that means they're interested. 2, it shows us, it just tests on very small little things, math, QuickBooks, not QuickBooks, Excel, and things. 5 questions as you write like a little email. It tests a lot of different things that I look for. And when I developed this, I got a lot of pushback from a lot of people. But what I found is every single person that's ever filled this out has been a successful salesperson. The people that have not failed miserably. I mean, I can't even tell you the number of people that I tried to hire as a salespeople, and they could not do it. So once we got the sales program going, we started getting our revenues up and everything like that. Then they wanted me to focus on how to help develop like the scheduling aspects of everything. And so then that's when we developed, instead of having a foreman, we came up with the idea or the foreman doing all the scheduling, because what was happening is we'd get the foreman's on the job site doing work and getting phone calls at the same time. It's just too much to handle again.
Yeah.
So then we had to develop and do another program where we have a scheduling person to facilitate all this. Then that developed into LA and San Diego, etc. So that way they can work on each individual job and not have to worry about being bothered while doing so. So just things like that. That was my beginning of ownership times with the development phase. For the last 5 years, we've been just kind of using the same protocols, but continually just growing them.
Yeah.
Meaning adding more salespeople, adding more project coordinators, increasing our field sizes to facilitate more sales, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and we've talked to other contractors in the past too, but I think that kind of goes to prove the point that we've kind of talked around sometimes is in order to grow, you have to put some of those systems and organization things in place. Otherwise, you're always going to be fighting the capacity.
Absolutely. It's impossible to have any type of growth without having enough people and enough talent to do the job. I mean,
Right.
You can't expect one person to be Superman and do it all. They get burnt out real quick. They might be able to do it, but give them 6 months to a year and they'll be done and look for another job because it's too overwhelming for them.
Yeah, so for sure.
I've always taken the approach. I don't like training people. I hate training people. I think it's the most cringing thing ever because it takes so much time. So I value every employee that we get, and I make sure that they have everything they need to succeed. Meaning, there's nothing that's going to stop them from that we can give to them, money wise, technology wise, tools wise, whatever. They have it so that they can succeed. And if they're overburdened, I listen, I hear, and I figure out how we can make that better for them, but still either not take away from our bottom line or increase our sales to accommodate what they need.
Compensate, yeah.
Exactly. That's always been my approach with this.
So you mentioned you got a couple of the businesses. One of them, sheet metal, obviously that's pretty self-explanatory. You said a consulting business. What kind of consulting do you guys do?
Waterproofing consulting.
Okay.
So with S&D Enterprises, that's been open for about 4 years now. That company is designed to work with a couple different types of customers. One, it's designed to work with existing waterproofing companies that are not in my not in San Diego, but more like in Arizona and stuff like that, to where I go in and I say, this is what, a typical waterproofing consultant, this is what the detail shows, this is what, or it doesn't show, this is what it needs to be, stuff like that. I do a lot of plan red lines for developers and everything like that. And I facilitate this with WICR because what I'm able to do is say, when I'm in the pre-development stage and I'm meeting with these companies, they ask me, who are we, do we have anybody we recommend and stuff like that? Of course.
Well, sure I do.
WICR.
Yeah.
By all means.
I know this guy. He's really good. Pretty cool dude too.
Yeah, so I get in the door in the pre-development stage. I mean, we're talking when the plans are multi-family plan set is only 5 pages deep, and they just have an overall schematic of the idea. And so I with that company S&D, I go into that, and that's purely referral based. So I get all my customers based on referrals, and that also is there to help solve litigations. So meaning I don't do expert witnessing. I prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
The owner will bring me in to come up with a solution to prevent the job from going into litigation.
Right.
And that's what I specialize in.
So you kind of answered my question. That's what I was my thought process, because I'm got that entrepreneurial spirit as well, right? So I kind of assume that, and I guess you answered it there. You're using that consulting company to get in and kind of refer the waterproofing business.
Yeah, I came up with the idea from Ray Kroc, Mr. McDonald.
Oh, McDonald's, yeah.
I watched that movie, The Founder,
and
it changed my whole perspective. He said, if you've already got something, what can you do to make it more money and to feed money from that? And so I took that philosophy. That's what started the sheet metal company. We've been purchasing sheet metal from third-party manufacturers for 20 years now. And so I said, well, I can do that.
Yeah.
So we started Division 7 sheet metal and sell to all we do is manufacture the sheet metal. We don't install it. So that way, waterproofers like myself, like WICR that doesn't manufacture sheet metal, can purchase it direct and not have to pay an arm and a leg through some of the other people out there.
Saving on the wholesaler costs and then also making some markup selling to other waterproofers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I sell it to WICR, but I also sell to people in LA and Riverside and San Diego that don't have their own sheet metal shops.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome.
Very
So
cool.
what kind of, from the waterproofing side, what kind of employee count you guys out on your labor side? How do you guys manage that?
So we got 48 guys in the field right now.
Wow. That's a lot to manage.
So we have, luckily we have a phenomenal director of field operations. His name is Ernie. He took the field and turned it into what it is today. I hired him as a sales guy originally, and he wasn't doing very well in the sales world, closing the deals and stuff. Like, he's a great salesman, believe it or not. Like, he's a phenomenal thing, but it just wasn't really working out for him in that way. And we had a guy named Bill Campbell, old timer, and people in San Diego and LA all over still to this day say, "Oh man, I remember Bill. He was a good guy. He was my mentor, really." And anyways, he moved away, retired, and so Ernie took the position from him. And me and Ernie have been a team since that happened. He has been a backbone of the company. And with that being said, he runs all of our crews. He makes sure that our crews are scheduled on site, have the tools they need, the materials they need, all through LA, all through San Diego, all through Riverside, into like Yuma and Palm Springs. I mean, everywhere.
I'm assuming he does a lot of the hiring on that side. What are you seeing from a labor standpoint? Are you looking for guys that have experience, or does he prefer bringing in a guy that doesn't so that he can train him his way? What's your preferred process there?
Oh, that's a great question too. So, okay, we have two different types of field guys. We have the field laborers. These are the guys that are green. We hire them off the streets, come out, however we find them. As long as they can use a tape measure, a hammer, they have some general common sense and stuff like that, we'll bring them in. We team them up with a team leader. All of our team leaders have been with us in between anywhere from, I think our youngest one now is like 4 years, and all the way up to 25 years.
Wow.
So we've got all of our team leaders stick with us for a very long period of time, because we pay those guys very well. They get what's called piece rate, which means that they get the total labor amount of the job. So whatever the labor amount of the job is, let's say it's $10,000 and he can do the job in $5,000, paying it paid out to the laborers and everything, he still gets that $5,000 extra bonus.
Oh wow.
So our team leaders are paid very well. That's why they stick with us.
They're incentivized.
They're incentivized to do it right, because if they do it wrong and there's an issue, they have to go back.
Change orders are coming out of their pocket. Yeah.
Yep. And then on top of that, they're incentivized to go faster, because they realize that if we can do this in a shorter period of time, I'm going to pay less money to my laborer, and I'm going to get more money in my pocket. So all in all, we made that change back about 8 years ago. That was because we were just losing our asses on labor for daily labor. When we made that change, it skyrocketed immediately. And so what happens is, when people come in as a laborer, they want to become a team leader. That's what their goal is. Their mindset is they want to become a team leader. They want to run their own jobs. They want to run their own crews. So, and we've hired team leaders from within. We don't hire team leaders outside the organization. So in order to become a team leader, they have to work under a team leader for about 3 years or so, maybe longer, depending on their knowledge base and how they work. And then they can become a team leader. And generally speaking, everyone has been a very successful one. So
that's awesome. I feel like that creates a tremendous amount of loyalty between you in terms of the management side and the employee side. And it also creates, going back to what I was saying before, it incentivizes these young guys to learn how to move up the ranks, knowing that if they work hard and put, an A effort into it, they are going to eventually, assuming so, they'd eventually be a team. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. And it is. I mean, we've got a couple of key team leaders. I'm not going to lie. They make a 6-figure salary and no college degrees, no nothing, but they work their asses off. And the new laborers see this and they're like, I want that.
Yeah.
I definitely want that. I can do this. And it really helps a lot. And on the sales side, when we hire a new sales guy, we bring them in from the streets. Now, this has been a thing that's disputed, whether we like to get people that don't know anything at all versus getting someone that at least knows construction. In the recent years, I found that at least getting someone that knows or that's been around a construction site is the most beneficial. getting someone that's never been around a construction site at all doesn't really know what it takes. For example,
Well, there's a terminology and a lingo that you kind of got to understand, right? I mean,
personalities. People in construction are just angry. They're just jealous. They're just mean. No matter what you do or how hard you try, they will be angry and mean to you. And so
that's normal.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I hired a female a couple months ago. She didn't last more than a month.
Yeah.
It was there. She was there, and she's like, I've worked with designers and stuff like that. I said, okay, we'll give you a shot. And one contractor just went off on her. Not even for her fault or anything. It just went off on her. And
you gotta have thick skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So it's a little bit harder on that side. In fact, we are hiring. Just an FYI, anybody listening, anybody want to talk to sales, we are hiring. So hit me up.
Yeah, right, for sure. So going back to that team leader format, I come from a background of managing people. So I know that there's a delicate balance between, getting people to work hard for you when they can kind of see that it's for your profit. I don't know if that makes sense. So like I was in restaurant management for a long time. So, I mean, I'm managing 18 to 22-year-olds and trying to get them to work harder and smarter so that my paycheck is bigger, right? Because I get bonus based on our profit. And so I know that there's a delicate way that you got to kind of manipulate that or get them to work hard for you if they're not sharing in that profit. So to that point, how are your team leaders? What are they doing because I mean, you can't just be back there cracking the whip, right? Like work harder because I need a bigger bonus. Yeah. What are they doing?
We do offer annual bonuses. We have annual revenue goals that we have to bill out, or billing goals that they have to achieve. We set those for the team leaders. They hit those, they get a bonus. Simple as that. Same thing goes with our field guys, the laborers. They will get a bonus too. Generally not as much as a team leader does, but they do get a bonus every year, and it's based on their revenues and what they can bill out. So if you got a team of two, a team leader and a laborer, that's how it always goes. And you got one team that's billing out $100,000 a year, and you got another team that's billing out $1 million a year. We base the bonus as a percentage on
of what you build,
and then they get that.
So for the labor guy working under the team leader, they're incentivized because they know if they work harder and faster and quicker and more efficiently, not necessarily that they're working for their team leader to get that bonus, but they know that they can, in theory, do more jobs. They can do more jobs and then get more. Okay, so they have an incentive there to work a little bit quicker, more efficiently as well.
Yeah, I'm a huge incentivizer. Yes, I'm a huge incentivizer.
No, I think it's smart. I just know that, like I said, coming from a background of managing people, I know that if you didn't have that incentive for your labor guys, I would imagine there'd be a little resentment.
For
them busting their tails. Busting their tails for the team leader to get paid. So I think that's smart.
Is so low in our field, it's ridiculous. Like we don't have people leave. We have people.
Well, you're giving them all the incentives to work hard, but plus you're also giving them something to achieve for, right? Like you've got that growth model that they can see the light at the end of the tunnel and where they want to go. With so many companies, I think the downfall is you can take care of them to hell and high water. You know what I mean? Give them every kind of benefit and pay them and all that other stuff. But if they don't see a path of growth or at least somebody that's done it before them, it's still hard to keep people. Yeah. So I think, I think you're doing it from both ends, which I think is great.
The other thing I try and do is we also have your typical stuff where your Christmas parties and stuff like that gets everybody together, right?
Yeah.
But we keep a calendar with the birthdays and anniversaries, even for our field crews. And I'll send a quick text message, me personally, to the guys and say, hey, happy birthday, happy 3-year anniversary, whatever. I try and stay in front of them as much as I can, and talk to them. They work out of the same warehouse as one of our offices in both San Diego and Riverside. So we get the opportunity to discuss with them daily and just be in front of them. And there's never been, this is the owner, they're making more profits. It's never like that.
Yeah.
It's always, how can we help and how can we, do more?
Well, I think if you take care of them, a lot of that kind of goes away. Yeah, that culture
created that culture of trust and
On the sales side of it, we have, I mean, that's even more incentivized. That is, they get instead of doing a gross profit bonus, a net profit bonus, we do a gross sale bonus.
Nice.
Meaning you sell a job for $100,000, you're getting 2% right there. Yeah. You sell $1 million, you get 2%. You sell $5 million, 2%. And then on top of that, your salary, and then on top of that, you get a profit bonus where it's at the end of the year, we run all your jobs that are closed. We get it if you're over 35%, you get another 3% bonus.
Wow, that's awesome.
On the total revenue sales right here.
Yeah.
Our guys have the ability to be incentivized that way in the sales department. So those guys are always working. Those guys are just nonstop, 24 hours a day.
Grinding.
Because they see dollar signs. Yeah.
And I tell them, I said, you can make as much money as you want here. Anybody that comes to work for me, I say, you can make as much money as you want. You can literally become a millionaire if you want to. You just gotta sell the jobs to do it. There's no stopping you. And my thing was, I don't like doing net profit bonuses very much, or especially when you can't regulate them. Like, as an employee, it's hard.
Yeah, you got no control over the rent in your building,
but they have control however much they sell. And so if they see that there's a number on the board, I sold this much money, I'm going to get this much money from this.
Right.
That right there changes the whole entire way that they think.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's why I changed it. That was one of the first things I changed back when I became an owner.
Yeah.
Well, and kind of going back to what we were talking about with your employees before, in terms of that resentment that they could, I think in the same way, if you're just working off a net profit, because you don't know how much labor costs or supplies or all that. I mean, on $100,000 job, maybe the net profit is $3,000. You make it 2%. You're like, what the hell am I doing?
I'm going to tell you a story. I've done a $400,000 prevailing wage job. And the thing about prevailing wage is you can't use the piece rate stuff in there. You have to use the labor rate.
Yep.
So we already knew that we were going to be off, but I mean, we were so bad because the labor was so far off on it that we made a total of $14,000. We netted $14,000 off of $400,000.
Jeez.
Like, you guys got to be kidding.
Yeah.
So, you never know that. I mean, you just, and it's better to have a line of sight.
Yep.
And be able to see it.
Yep.
And know you're going to get it. So that's kind of the mentality I took. And like I said from the beginning, I'm a big incentivizer. And any of my employees that come to me and say, hey, excuse me, I need help. I'm having a kid or anything. I do everything I can to help them, to try and get them what they need or what they're asking for. Because I don't need them going out and looking for another job thinking that
well, like you said, I mean, not only, it's not even about hating trading at that point. It's about the cost of training somebody new. So I mean, whatever. Absolutely. I mean, in most cases, whatever it takes to keep them is going to be, or to keep them happy and keep them, confident in their job. There is likely in most cases going to be far cheaper than hiring somebody else and having to put them through it.
Absolutely, that's the number one thing that I tell everybody is that it takes more time and effort for me, which is
money.
The money than it does just to keep them happy and give them $10,000 or whatever they're asking.
Yeah, for sure.
How are these guys finding the jobs? Like, what are they? Are they just banging doors? What are they doing?
Traditionally, I'm going to be honest about this. I haven't got with the new age of technology and all that stuff yet. Our best hires have been found from Craigslist, and since we've been trying to hire new people in the last few years, we've tried Indeed, we've tried LinkedIn. I just did an ad on LinkedIn. I'm not able to get I've not found any successful clients through that yet. So I don't have an answer for you on that. We are trying a variety of different things. I'm at the point where I'm almost ready to get into a headhunter position where I have to find someone to go get me someone.
Yeah.
Because the positions that we have available are so, I don't want to say important, but they're so focused on a specific thing that it takes a very specific individual to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to find a good way to weed that out yet, except for Craigslist and doing my test. But on the labor side of it, that comes from referrals.
Yeah.
99% of our guys are from referrals. Labor community is very small. And so like you got my guy Juan, or a Christian, that came from another waterproofing company because his cousin worked over there and said, hey, this company's hiring, if you want to go get more money or whatever.
Right.
So it's a very small community in that regards. And we never put an ad out for labor ever. We always get our stuff as a referral from people.
Word of mouth. Yeah.
Word of mouth, yeah. So that's always been the best way.
Are you seeing, I mean, kind of to touch on this social experiment, I guess, that we're in right now, or hopefully coming out of, knock on wood.
Yeah.
What is a couple pieces? One, what is your business been like, and what are some of the things that you guys have had to do? But also from a labor standpoint, are you seeing anybody that's been, I guess, for lack of a better term, available because maybe they got laid off or their company?
I was hoping that was going to be the case. I'm not going to lie. That's a very bad and horrible thing for me to say, but I was hoping that I was going to.
Well, it's the truth, right? Yeah, I mean,
that's the truth. I was hoping that when I put this ad out there a month ago and paid, I think, $1,500 to LinkedIn to get someone, that I would get a plethora of resumes and interest from people that are qualified. I got about 30 emails, 30 people that applied. More than 20 of those were right out of college graduates, no experience in the field. They might have, and some of them didn't even have construction management, nothing. Like I had accountants applying for it, so I had a lot of other trade stuff, but I never had anybody that was
the person you were looking for.
Yeah, like a construction industry person, a project engineer that's been working for a GC that's ready to move up into project management.
Yeah. Stuff
like that, which would be perfect. I didn't get a single one. Yeah. Not one.
Maybe it might be coming out too. I mean, we were talking to somebody yesterday who said he was hoping the same thing, and it almost he was saying that he thinks that's probably going to happen towards the end of next month, end of July, kind of when the that unemployment bonus, I guess, if you will, disappears because he's under the impression that a lot of people are just comfortable sitting at home collecting the unemployment since the increase went up. So maybe hold out on that. Hopefully that'll turn for you in a couple months here.
I'm hoping so too. We have. Although I'm not holding my breath, what I've started to do in the meantime is start to transfer one of my LA sales reps down to San Diego. And then I'm going to train another. It's easier to find people in LA than it is in San Diego because it's just
right. Yeah.
So it's just an easier way to do it. So that's kind of what I've been doing. But
from a business standpoint, how have you seen any kind of slowdown or uptick, or how's it going?
We had our two biggest months of our fiscal year over the last 2 months.
Wow.
Over 12 million or 1.3 million on first month and 1.7 million sales last month.
And do you think I would assume with the high revenue you guys are doing, a lot of it's either development work or for commercial work. Is that right? That you guys are doing?
Rehab. We do a lot of rehab work for homeowners, HOAs, management companies. And then we have a new construction division that deals with all new construction, multifamilies, residential buildings. We don't do hospitals or schools.
Yeah.
Any of that stuff. We stay out of that game. We stick mostly to housing markets. And we do mostly in the private sector. So most of the money that's being paid for is not government funded.
Yeah.
It's majority of it is privately held. And on that note, most of the funds that we're getting for the projects are not being affected by the stock market or anything.
Yeah, like bureaucracy and all that other stuff.
Yeah, they are. They're pre-funded projects.
So I mean, when you said that you have a huge couple of months, because my first thought was, maybe he does a lot of commercial work, and because these buildings are closed, a lot of the owners are saying, hey, let's this is the time to update, rehab, do a lot of stuff. But so what do you think attributed to that amount of growth in the residential field that you're in?
Yeah. So what I was talking about this with one of my employees yesterday. I think personally that the growth came during that time frame because people actually had the time to sit down and analyze everything and realize that what they're getting when they go with us versus going with another bid or something like that. That's truthfully what I got. I was able to the Zoom meeting thing is what changed the world. For example, there was a job that was a very large project, that it was between me and another subcontractor. And they were basically saying I couldn't get in front of them. They wouldn't meet me in person. They wouldn't do anything like that. And as soon as the pandemic thing happened, they shut their doors, basically said we're not doing anything. And then about a week later, I said, well, can we at least have a Zoom meeting? And I'm sorry, Teams. I was on Microsoft Teams.
Right. Yeah.
And they said, fine, that doesn't take any energy out of us. We'll go ahead and give you 15 minutes of our time. In doing so, we were able to close the deal, identifying just the simplistic facts of our bid versus what others are bidding. Most people don't look at those things.
Well, it's something that you could have easily done if you got in front of them, but it's almost like this pandemic forced them into a new way of thinking of being you. So you still got in front of them. You got what you wanted. It was
just a different way.
Yeah. And it's not as, what's the word?
Not as intrusive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
That's awesome.
Quick,
so do you see yourselves using that into the future?
Always.
Yeah.
I am 150% on board with it. And I'm also the person that's telling my employees that if they want to stay home and work, there are certain ones like my takeoff estimator, the guy that does the takeoffs, he doesn't need to be in the office. If he prefers to be at home, he's being just as productive, if not more productive. In fact, the quality of his work has increased tremendously because what I found was when he's in the office, he's talking with me, he's talking with the other people, he's just
distracted,
blah, 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 blah. But when he's at home, he's working and he's doing the job, and he still has all the deadlines to meet and everything like that. But the quality of work, meaning not missing certain things and doing all the proper protocols when doing the takeoff, he's hitting every one of them. And I found that this is actually better than him being in the office.
Yeah, my wife, it's so funny. My wife said the same thing because she's in insurance as well, right? So she goes in the office and she says hi to the 15 people she says hi to, and maybe one of them will stop and talk to her for 15 or 20 minutes in the morning, and then they go get coffee, and then they have lunch, and so the same thing. They're chit chatting away, and sure, she gets her work done, but we have a 4-year-old also. So, I mean, we held her out of preschool for the first, 4 or 5 weeks, but she felt more, she was working less hours from home because she was also, kind of managing the 4-year-old, but she felt more productive at home, even though she was working less hours because same reason. I mean, when she was working, that's all she was doing was working. Yeah. She didn't have all those other distractions. So I mean, I completely understand it. And what's so funny is you probably wouldn't have, and maybe I'm wrong, but I assume you probably wouldn't have given that a thought or given that an opportunity had this not happened, right? I mean, you probably wouldn't have told that guy, hey, go work from home for 3 weeks and let's see what happens. Like, you probably wouldn't have done that.
He asked me last year. Yeah. He asked me last year if he could do it, and I said, no, I need you in the office.
It's so funny.
So funny. This forced us to do it, and it's proven to be very, very good. All the employees, and in fact, another thing that came out of the COVID thing was my communication with the employees.
Yeah, you got to be a lot more efficient if they're not there every day.
I've never been so in tune with what's going on than I am right now.
That's awesome.
We've been weekly meetings, which we've never had. We tried to do them in the past, but it's just too much to get everybody into one room and stuff like that. It never even considered doing on-screen meetings and stuff like that. And so once it all started, I thought, I need to figure out how I can keep in front of these guys and make sure that everybody's staying on board, has enough work to do, is getting all their tasks done. And so I implemented a weekly sales meeting on Tuesdays. And in doing so, I've been able to fine tune our sales process, our takeoff, just even more so than we have in the last 2 months than we ever have before. Ever.
That's great. That's awesome. It's so fun. It's cool to kind of see the little nuanced things that changes in the way that people kind of have to adjust their business in ways that they never would have thought they would have had to, or they never would have.
And they never would have gotten there.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's truly a miraculous change has happened. Everything happens for a better reason.
And I don't know if you lease the space you're in now, but there's probably a good chance that when your lease comes up that you might downsize and might save some money there because you got people working outside. You know what I mean?
I've always said that we have 3 offices and we don't need them. We only need 2, maybe.
Yeah.
So,
right.
But that's a whole nother story.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, man, the COVID thing is really detrimental to the world. Luckily, it just hasn't affected us very much.
Yeah.
I'm pretty stoked about that part. Hopefully and same thing with S&D and Division 7. In fact, it's just moving forward. Everything's moving forward. I don't believe in failure, so I think that everything else is going to just be success.
So I'm going to ask you about your future, but I kind of have a feeling I understand what your thought process is, just the way you've kind of talked. But I mean, I can imagine you're probably not comfortable where you're at now. I mean, in theory, you don't have a problem growing or getting bigger or anything along those lines, right? I mean, do you see?
No, I plan on doing a roofing thing. WICR Waterproofing is a very, very, very niche company. We specialize in what we do, and we are the best at what we do. But there's things we do not do, and such as roofing and certain types of roofing materials that could be applied as a waterproofing application.
Yeah.
So most of it's due to training and insurance and just not simply having the machineries and not having a person that knows how to do it. So what I try and do is I always try and find someone that knows something, how to do it, and then I facilitate them to make it happen.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is going to be a free insurance tip for you from the insurance guys, and not that we like to talk insurance a lot, but if you're going to add roofing, make sure it's a completely separate company with separate ownership.
Yep. That's what it's exactly what it's going to be. So that's the next venture that I'm going to be getting into.
Because if the ownership's the same, they're gonna combine them, and then you're gonna have a tough time finding that placing that insurance. So
interesting.
Free tip for you. Yeah.
Appreciate that. And that's
Friday.
what we haven't done it yet because our insurance already is sky high, and they want we thought about it at one point, and it was like we got some quotes for it, like if we were to do it, and it just was way too
it's going to jack up all the rates of all the different
everything
grades.
Of the whole, and so
but if it's separate, then you can get a separate quote for that and keep the one for everything else you do.
Yeah. As far as WICR goes for growth wise, we're trying to hire more sales guys so we can facilitate more sales. I try and get each salesman to bring in a couple mil is what we try and get each one to do. And so as far as marketing and stuff goes, we are capturing the market where we're finding out from our marketing company that people are bidding on our name now and everything like that, bidding on all our stuff. And boosting all of our stuff up. It's kind of crazy. So we're making a name for ourselves in that realm. I was
going to say, if they're not talking about you, or if they're talking about you, you're important.
Yeah,
right?
you got a target. That's a good thing.
Doesn't matter what they're saying. So because you've kind of become a little bit more efficient at working remote, have you given any thought to expanding outside further north of LA at all?
Great question. So I've always wanted to go further north. The problem is when you get, we do go up to Carmela
Calabasas and stuff.
Calabasas and all that. Santa Barbara. We've done many projects in Santa Barbara. We've done a lot of projects up there, Palmdale and everything like that. But anything further than north of that, we don't really get into. My next venture, if I were to go anywhere outside of, our standard work areas, most likely would be like either A, Sacramento, or B, San Francisco.
Yeah. And
in fact, I got most of my developers that I work with down here have already asked me to work for them up in San Francisco because they've got projects they're doing up there more so than they're doing down here even.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The problem is up there, a lot of the shops are union run. And we're not a union shop. Yeah. And so it makes it a little bit more difficult. We were in Vegas for a while. We did a couple casinos out there, but it's very difficult. If you're on the strip, you can't get a job if you're not in the union. And so we just kind of stay out of that stuff. We're never going to be a union shop. That's something that I'm pretty much never going to do. So we found that sometimes it's the other thing we instead of focusing on big numbers, we focus on our profits for the last 4 or 5 years and increasing those. And so we found that you don't have to go further north, further out. You don't have to try and sell different types of things. You can focus on what you're selling, become proficient at it.
Yeah, I was going to say,
and then
be more efficient,
more money and make more profit for doing less work.
Yeah.
And so that's what our focus has been for the last 4 or 5 years. And it's been very great. So I don't know if we're going to expand outside of our territory. I think that we need to own our territory outright and wholly before we do that.
Yeah.
And we don't do that. We have a good market share, but by no means do we own it. And so in order
that's smart. Yeah. Stay where you're good and where what you know and become efficient there.
Right.
Yeah.
So you kind of teased
going to Hawaii?
right? Except it's going to cost you 4 times as much to bring the people and products over there, right?
Absolutely.
They're all on islands.
Yeah.
So you teased us beforehand with a couple of maybe a story or two. Is there something you'd like to share with the people here before we go?
I got 3 stories that when you said I had to tell the story, I thought to myself, what am I going to tell? I'm like, I'm like,
oh yeah, pretend like it's so hard, but we all know that you got stories. I mean, let's be honest. Construction and contractors.
The first one that came to my mind is, you're an insurance guy. It's not even that big of a deal. But what came to my mind was we were doing the Hilton in San Diego in Carlsbad, and we had a guy down in the hole, and he was wearing all his proper PPE, hard hat, glasses, everything, and he was rolling on stuff from up above on the podium deck. Another subcontractor accidentally tripped or kicked a 3 foot or a 4 foot by 8 foot piece of plywood off, and it landed right on my guy's head.
Hey.
Knocked him out completely. And so we ended up having to take him to the hospital and all that stuff. And my only thing, the reason I bring that up is because the contractor is actually mostly at fault because he didn't have fall protection up on the podium above. And so the reason why this stuck in my mind so much is because the amount of money that it costed us and the amount of money it costed the homeowner or the contractor and stuff, all because he just didn't have the proper fencing on the podium up above. That would have saved the guy is disabled for pretty much life. And B, it would have saved the money and time and everything. So if I can tell any GC to do anything, make sure you have your proper safety standards up.
Yeah, for
that
sure.
Way, because it might not be us that's doing the issue, but it's someone else, and they can get hurt. So that was a quick one. The other one that I thought, that's boring. I'm not going to tell them about that. And I thought, maybe I'll tell them about the time I was in Bel Air and I was out measuring this deck and this, I don't want to say the term older lady or this female that she's good looking and everything. I mean, she was nice, but she comes out, she's wearing a robe, and I'm like going, okay, what's wrong with your deck? What's, like that. And her robe kind of starts like slipping open a little bit. Okay. So anyway, she goes, well, I'm having an issue right over here. And she bends over and nothing underneath. And I'm like, oh my God. What am I going to do here? And I'm looking at her ring finger. She has nothing on her finger, nothing there. And I'm going, what did I just get myself into? Long story to become a very short one. She left. I said, let me measure and stuff like that. So she left, goes in the house, and she's in the kitchen when I come back downstairs to leave, and she's butt naked. Completely naked. And she's like, can I get you something to drink? And I'm like,
I gotta go.
I appreciate it. I gotta get the next appointment. But
like lawsuit central right there.
I was like sitting there thinking to myself, am I being videotaped right now?
Am I being punked?
I'm not knowing about or what? Jesus. And then but that wasn't even the story I really thought about. The real story I wanted to tell you.
They're building up.
Yeah.
So the real one, I have to give you a little backside to this. There's 2 guys. They're fantastic guys. They own the main guy. He owns very reputable architecture firm down here in San Diego. He's a developer of world-renowned multifamily projects. Phenomenal dude. And I've known him for many years now, so I'm allowed to say this. He is gay. He's part of the LGBTQ community. And we were on a job site. This is the second time I've ever actually met him. This is like 9 years ago. And we were on a job site together with the manufacturer rep from West Coast. His name is Mark Dizuno. And my project director, or director of Ernie, and then his superintendent. And that superintendent is also part of the LGBTQ community. And we were up on a deck and we were walking around. And to give you an idea what these guys look and sound like, if you've ever seen Modern Family, they look like Mitchell and sound and talk and act a lot like Cam.
Yeah.
Like very. So anyways, we're on a job site and there's a door and we're looking at it. They said, well, what can you do here? And I said, well, we could just, jam caulk in it. And they just start laughing, like giggling. I'm like, what's going on? Like, and then all of a sudden, He goes, what color cock? And I'm like, I don't know what color cock you want. Like, I mean, like, and they said, black cock? Like, oh my god!
Oh god!
You gotta be messing with me because I'm like, I'm bright red and everybody's around me and I'm like going, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
Get me out of here.
I'm like going, oh my goodness. And so since then, I played into it and I went along with the whole thing. I'm like, man, if that's what you're into, bro, I can get whatever you want. We made it a joke. And since then, we've been some of my best clients I've ever had. A couple years later, we were doing, I think, our 4th or 5th project with them. This is like 3 years ago. And I rode my street bike. I have a chopper, and I rode it down there. And I have this half-head helmet that has spikes on it. And he goes, I want a spiked helmet, but he doesn't ride a motorcycle. So I brought him a pink WICR hard hat with spikes on it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so he's just been a good client of mine. But I'll never forget that because I've never been so embarrassed. I mean, he's a high-profile character, and I mean, I'm just sitting there like, going, are you really just giggling at the word cock right now? I mean, oh man,
that's awesome.
That was my story.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap it up unless you get back to your day.
But before
we do.
Yeah, why don't you tell the people where to find you guys and maybe find prospective employees where to find you guys as well.
Fantastic. Why don't you guys go to our website, it's www.wicrwaterproofing.com. You can also call us at 888-388-9427.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Well, thanks, Steven.
Yeah,
really
Steven, thanks so much, man. We appreciate it.
I really appreciate you having me on today. It was really fun.
That was a blast.
That was a blast. That was one of my more fun ones.
The last 9 minutes not included, it was still fun.
Epic.
Nice. Well, thank you guys. You guys stay safe out there and have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Cool.
We'll keep in touch.
Steven.
Thanks, Steven.
All right. We'll see you later.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.